Welcome to Marketing Rebels Breaking Business Barriers. You've joined us for a special series called Marketing Momentum for Mental Health. And we have Tammy here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why this topic matters to her, and why it should matter to you. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Shauna, thanks so much for having me here. I love this topic because of my own journey through all of this. Being a registered nurse, I started off there. I experienced burnout. Leading up to that, I struggled with depression and having generalized anxiety essentially all my life. And I got really good on with putting on that mask, and pretending everything is okay. And I did well for myself, like I married a man that loves me, got a good career, and had this uh, wonderful like investments, became this millionaire. And I still wasn't happy at that time. And I really struggled within myself, and it manifested into burnout at that time, and it played out in all areas of my life. It doesn't happen in a box for all of us. Um, it doesn't leave us in a space of, feeling necessarily that we could reach out. And so this is really important topic to speak about because I think a lot of us are in the space where we got to put a mask and we just can't be authentic in it. We can't ask for help. We can't, navigate life without honoring this part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a stand for this because I have navigated through it and I've overcome anxiety, depression, and chronic burnout without any medications by learning how to love myself and step into a authentic leader, a thought leader of this work to really help people see that it's possible to heal and grow and to expand ourselves by dropping into a deep self-love embodiment and sharing everything we're meant to. And through my burnout, it's really like I feel like I want to call it the burnout evolution because it really propelled me into this journey of looking deep into the core issues behind it and how to overcome it. And I'm so happy to share it today.
That's really profound, actually, what you just said. I'm getting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like the cycle of burnout and chronic mental health concerns led you to a point of breaking, cracking, and being able to see the truth of what was inside that you had been hiding all along, layers and layers of masks.
Yeah, and honestly, Shauna, like even when I burned out, it got me to obviously slow down because I literally got wheeled off to emergency in front of all my coworkers at work at that time. So I really was made to slow down. The universe said stop. But what really was this turning point, Shauna, was
Mm-hmm.
literally when I had my first baby and she was 6 months old and she was lying there on one of those um, toy mats with the dangling toys. And for the first time, she intentionally hit one of those things. And most moms would just be melting and cooing at it, right? And for me, like if it wasn't for this community nurse that was sitting next to me right at that moment in my living room couch next to me, pointing out that I was entirely disconnected. Like I literally saw it, but I couldn't feel anything for my daughter. And that really pulls a lot of heartstrings for me. And I needed that awakening. And oftentimes we can't see what we can't see when we're in it.
Yeah.
And that was where I was at, Shauna. Yeah. So that really, like, because um, what I noticed working with a lot of clients through this in the past is that it often stems from a deeper place of whether that's big T or small t. For myself, I was abandoned by my mom, like 20 days old, like depending which family member I would speak to, and
Mm-hmm.
that really played havoc on what type of mom I thought I was going to be. And I didn't even, leading up to that point, I didn't even want to have kids. So it took me 7 years of inner work to realize I wasn't going to turn into my mom. And at that moment, it was literally, I wasn't physically abandoning my daughter, but I was emotionally abandoning her. So
Right.
there really is something here around standing in this place of being comfortable with our own emotions, where the places where it's not comfortable.
Yeah. And having a community or at least one person close by to tell you, hey, That's something we need to work on. And you're not alone. We got this.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine another Tammy who didn't have that nurse there. It sounds like she was pretty life changing.
Yeah, at that time I just yeah, I wasn't in my power. I didn't understand what to do with all these emotions. I didn't know how to lead myself out of it, and it was a blessing because it propelled me into like, I'm not going to set my life the way it is. I'm not going to turn into my mom. And often it's that pain, right? It's that pain that propels us on our journey
Yeah.
of being better and doing better, showing up better, whatever that is. But doing that, eventually, right, starts from pain, but eventually morphing it into doing it from a place of passion and pleasure and purpose versus pain motivation. Because being someone on that journey of chronic burnout, it really, like, I did all these things. I was this high achiever because I needed to look good in front of everyone, and I gotta get all these achievements done. And I was a people pleaser. I couldn't say no to people, and that propels the cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I mean, it's the science of physics, right? Everything in motion will stay in motion, right? So if you keep going in that direction, it's going to be easy for momentum to take you in that direction. But if you can actually intentionally create a stop or a redirection, you can literally change your life.
Yes, and that's it. It's actually leading our life versus allowing just like the natural energy that was running or stuck or running in a certain direction. Even if we are in movement and taking action, we could actually still be in some level of burnout, right? And
Right.
so, really, it's about stepping into this place of authentic leadership within ourselves where we honor all these parts of ourselves, where not a part of ourselves needs to like be put in the table at the back, but
Mhm.
we're bringing every part of us to the front and showing up in an authentic way with self-awareness but transparency. Because in this day and age of AI and information being at our fingertips, honestly, that's what's missing as we step into our leadership, our thought leadership, our entrepreneurship, and what we want to, the impact we want to bring. It starts with being able to be authentic within ourselves. And I know, Shauna, you're all about this as well. So you get it, right?
Absolutely. I love the just the concept of authenticity. I know it's a buzzword. I know people are gonna roll their eyes and be like authenticity with a bunny ears and all that jazz. Okay, fine. But at its root, though, like never mind what the media has turned the word authenticity into. At its root, at its mimetic root, I'm going to go get authentic with you. Mimesis is a really cool concept. If you don't know it, look it up. It stems from like Aristotle and Plato and all them guys. At its mimetic root, at its true meaning, in its truest form, that genuine spot, authenticity is quite beautiful. And if we're able to kind of access that in not only our personal lives, but our professional lives as well, there's a sort of energy that is just naturally created that spawns and takes us to where we intentionally want to be, and it's inevitable when you've stepped into it, which is so cool. Like in the geek, ooh, I like that freezing face, that one's fun. For everybody who's watching the video, you get to see a really funny face. For those of you listening, you missed out. You might want to go over to YouTube and check it out. But it's so cool. Now that said, talk about professional and personal representations of authenticity. Something else you said earlier really caught my attention, and you were talking about how um, these sentiments, the good and the bad, bleed into every aspect of our being.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit more about that and your experience with that, and how you then subsequently, of course, help the people around you personally and professionally to navigate that space?
Yeah, for sure, Shauna. And this again, it's again journeying deeper into authenticity within ourselves. Because what happens is that when oftentimes I walk my clients through, for example, goals, and I get them to get really deep into why that goal is important to them. And when they're really radically honest with themselves, it often stems, not all, but often stems into a place of pain where they want
Mm.
to be seen, they want to be heard. And unfortunately, when we do it from this place, and I want to just put a caveat, it's beautiful because you're on your journey of that, of starting from that place. And there is, when we create from that space, that energetic space of not enoughness, is that I am not good enough, therefore I need to be seen, I need to do more, I need to do it better. When we navigate life and business with that energy, we're creating results that are limited by that energy. And so this is why stepping
Hmm.
into this deeper self-awareness piece and deeper authenticity, where we look into deeply into our hearts, our why, and we really get clear within ourselves. And this is the beauty of face reading, is when I help people see the inner and outer world, where which parts of their inner world is not matching how they're showing up in the outer world. It comes, like, it helps people come face to face about where are we creating, and creating this impact and expressing our passion with love. And a part of us is actually creating out of this pain, this hurt, past trauma that's happening. And I
Right.
really want people to understand this, is that, you know, the energy that we bring and express online, people are feeling that. And I think people can see when we're online, you can see when someone's, or feel or sense when someone's in alignment versus when someone's out of alignment, in how they speak, their language, their body language, because I do body reading, that stands out to me more. But generally, we have this sense, and it's the I will say, like, the deeper we want to expand and make our impact out there, the deeper we must go within. It's just a non-negotiable. Yet a lot of people, I notice just with seeing my clients, so I say a lot of people because of the clients I work with, is that they think they've done the work and they stop.
Right.
But love for ourselves is never ending. We must consistently choose to put ourselves first in a loving way, not only to build our mental, emotional energy, the physical energy, but also our energy resonance, alignment, and vibration. So we can actually attract and create what we want.
I find it interesting that you commented on how you can really notice a person's energy even in the digital world. I mean, we usually can. I feel like there's an element that you can feel when you bump into a friend at a coffee shop and you start talking. You go, wait, are you okay? And you can feel it, like, because their demeanor's off. You're in person, but I think it's interesting that you extend that to the digital world, because there are a lot of people who will say, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine," and that's just why you get a lot of chronic burnout for entrepreneurs, because they'll show up online thinking it's different, thinking that, oh, it's okay. We'll just press play, just be Instagram happy, ah. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to feel the lack of energy there, the lack of positive energy rather. And
Mhm.
I want to share just that, like, there have been too many times over the last, well, we're in at the time of this recording, we're in February. I would say over the last three months, where I've hopped on a call with a frolic of mine. That's a term from Lindsay Harl-Kadatz. So if she's on the Marketing Momentum for Mental Health too. So if you want to watch that, she's fun. A frolic of mine, a friend and colleague. Where I've hopped on there, I'm talking to them. By all intents and purposes, this is how it looks, right? But I stop them mid-sentence and I look them dead in the eye and I say, "What is wrong?" "What?
Mhm.
Nothing." I say, "What is wrong? I can feel it in my marrow. What is wrong? Something's wrong." And I at least once, somebody broke down in tears immediately.
Mhm.
Another time, somebody went off on a tangent about, and this was not a topic that we were planning on talking about, but it was there, and it was almost like I could see it sitting at the front of their brain, and wow, da, 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 and they go on this big rant, and oh, and you could see that release. I just needed to vent about something. It was beautiful. So I say these stories to say that digital presence matters, and because that matters, the behind the screens presence matters as well. When
Mhm.
you're showing up for your clients, when you're showing up for your family. And I'm going to argue, most importantly, and I think you'll agree, Tammy, when you're showing up for yourself. So how can we journey to that place, Tammy? How did you navigate that space after a nurse says, "Hey, this needs to be addressed," and then you realize, "Damn, it does. That's hard. What's next?" Because I'm seeing it right now today. I bet you, the majority of our viewers are like, my friend, myself have this right now, or have experienced this, or we know will experience it soon. What do they do then? What's your best advice?
Yeah, and Shauna, I will answer that. I just want to backtrack a little because something you said really jumped out at me in the sense of like, yeah, many of us kind of show up in this happy, staying positive space and we focus on the mindset. Yet, it's that place within us where we are feeling, we know within ourselves we're not being authentic. And
Right.
that's when that imposter syndrome comes up. And to really highlight the digital space because energy can really be seen through digital space because you're looking at your camera in this little box. It's like most of the time people are not even listening maybe to the words you're saying, but they're sensing your energy, right? And so yeah, I just want to speak to that place. And this is where, like, to answer your question, I often start with this. I actually do this process where I measure someone's energy. Like, I get them to get really connected and feel and sense into their goals. And I test their energy field to really see where they're in or out of alignment because we could keep doing all the things outside, but when we're not being true to ourselves and looking at these pieces, this is where the burnout happens. And so as a nurse, when I was going through this journey, right? I mean, I didn't know all of this. Like right now, I use someone's face to highlight back to them. I use energy testing to show them so they could see it in a tangible way. But back then I didn't have any of that. So I had to navigate. First of all, I did the personal development,
Mhm.
obviously the counseling and therapy and all these things. Ran masterminds and all these things, became a neurolinguistic programmer, try to like master my mind. And of course the answer wasn't there. It did help. And so I moved on to doing the energy work, the Reiki, shamanism, bioenergy healing. And so I learned all these energy tools and they helped significantly. They helped me feel better in the moment. And I was exchanging healings 2 to 3 times a week. And when I stopped doing it, I still experienced anxiety and I still was having all these feelings about myself. And so I knew the answer wasn't there alone.
Mhm.
And it did help a bit. And so when I navigated through going into emotional and spiritual healing, and then into psychosomatic therapy, which is the study of this body, mind, heart, soul alignment all together, what I realized is that it's not through addressing ourselves separately. It's actually learning to address ourselves in body, mind, heart, soul, energy alignment all together. Because when we deny these parts of ourselves and we're not paying attention to these parts of ourselves, that's when self sabotage happens.
Right.
So we might as well bring it to the forefront. I feel that this is a big part of my messaging because when I try to do separate pieces, piecemeal myself out, put myself in a box is not authentic. It doesn't work. You can't show up as your fullest self. You can't fully express yourself, nor can you fully love yourself to pieces in all these places.
That's
And
so
I don't
so true.
And I don't know about you, Shauna, but I'm here to spread love and to bring heaven to earth, raise global consciousness. That is my mission. So we can't separate ourselves like this.
I just love that. It brings me so much joy to hear. Truly, it's just like one of those things that you can't help but I look. I'm hugging myself. I'm like, oh yes, we love it. It's good because this whole idea of being holistic, as in the whole body, mind, spirit, energy, that concept often is lost. And what we find is, and what I heard here, and don't get me wrong, I'm that person, even today, because as you know, it's an ever evolving work task journey to evolve, like you said at the beginning, into that next version of yourself. So I'm just going back. You said this is not verbatim, but what I took from it is the answer was not in your mind. It was
Mhm.
not mindset. It was not the head work. It was not the learning, the academia, the very cerebral part of things. That's not where specifically the healing needed to take place, even though that's where we often go to. And what I'm hearing happened is it didn't not work, but it didn't provide the deep level of healing that was required for sustained positive evolution. And so
Mhm.
you needed to tap into the different elements and see how you could get them to lean on one another to evolve better. So I'm getting in my mind, this is completely spontaneous, but I'm seeing this. Have you seen people do this? Anybody here witnessing this? Have you seen people where they lean on each other's knees? They lean, I think it's back on each other's knees, and it's like 4 people. And if you do it, the amount of pressure you're putting back on the person behind you versus the person in front of you putting it back on you, you balance one another so you don't actually fall over.
Mhm.
Right? I see that being this holistic approach to mental health. This idea that if you only focus, if only one person leaned back, the whole thing would topple. But
Mhm.
because everyone has equally trusted one another, it really is a trust exercise. If you lean into the trust of your mental, your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, and you allow them each to trust each other and lean on each other, then you're getting this more full concept of a healthy mental state.
Mhm. Yeah, and honestly, like starting from chronic overwhelm, exhaustion, burnout, whatever those symptoms are for you, right? And it really stems down to a confidence issue at some level. And if we go deeper, another layer, it's how we feel about ourselves. It's an energy issue. Because energy starts with a feeling within ourselves, and change outside starts with that internal change, of course,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's really about stepping into, I like to call it energy mastery, because it's not just like energy woo woo work. It's
Mm-hmm.
like everything. Our What words we use is energy. How we place our body and use our body at a vibrating level of atoms is energy. And our emotions, right? Like when we are not comfortable with being with our emotions, that's when we keep out of our body. It keeps us in our mind and out of the solution of coming back home into our body and our emotions. And so to heal this, a big part of it has to do with a leadership of our emotional energy, because emotions are energy and emotions. So you see how it's all interrelated, right? It's really difficult to talk about this all separately. When we allow those emotions to be suppressed or repressed, it actually creates the words that are going off in our brain, which are not always very nice. They don't speak very nice to us. And then a story gets created, which then turns into maybe another story. You're feeling negative. You're attracting more of the same, right?
Right.
And so it keeps us in this spiral and loop, and that is the cycle of chronic overwhelm and burnout. Because when
Mm-hmm.
we're playing a cycle, we haven't learned to stand in leadership, authority, in our energy mastery within ourselves, to really be the authentic leader that we really yearn to be. Like all of us want to make this difference, and we want to create that impact and leave our legacy. And so again and again, right? Like staying positive only gets us so far.
Yeah.
And it really, yeah. I mean, I could speak about this again and again, Shauna. So please stop me and just redirect the
I-
conversation.
I'm infatuated. I'm just sitting here like, okay, let's keep going, because truly it is that. In fact, actually, that's a really great just concept. There is this cyclical notion of you're gonna be spinning in circles a little bit, but the fact of the matter is, if you focus on the right thing, your energies, your comprehensive energies on the right thing, that cycle will take you onward and upward. Right?
Mhm.
You want that upward cycle, that ability to kind of transcend this space where you can re-experience self-love over and over and over again as you mature and evolve into the next truest part of yourself. And that can be really hard to do when you're facing a lot of external pressures as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as a dad, as a functioning human in our society today. We see something on the news and we go, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do with myself." Or if you're indeed suffering from chronic mental health illnesses, where even just the idea of focusing on your holistic energy. Like, that idea can seem so out of reach sometimes. So it can be challenging, and I don't want to diminish that for anybody. But as somebody who's been through it, I mean, most of us have been through it to some extent. But I'd love to hear your 2 cents on, because I feel like this needs to be pinpointed.
Okay.
The one thing you can focus on, because you're right, it's holistic. You're right,
Yes.
and there's not. We could talk about it all day,
Mm-hmm.
but I can feel in my heart this empathy for someone watching this, going, yeah, but there's so many variables that are impacting whether or not I can't. How do you herd the cats? How
Mm-hmm.
do you herd the cat? What is that one thing? What can I just, like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and it's going to give me that little bit of leverage that I need in order to figure it out.
Yeah, honestly, the first step is accepting where you're at and allowing yourself to just cry. It sounds so it sounds so easy, and it's not at the same time, because first of all, many of us are, in a cycle of overdoing, overwhelmed. There's so much to do on this list, and telling someone to slow down and in itself is a challenge. So it does take that effort within ourselves to slow down, to allow ourselves to, like, I'm not feeling good right now, and to really, like I think this is a great way to start, actually, is just to, when you're hearing yourself saying that in here, I want you to just say, like, what I hear you say is that you're not feeling that good right now, and to allow ourselves to hear ourselves and to speak back to ourselves. It's like, you'll be surprised how good you feel just by hearing yourself and telling her that you accept how she feels right now. And if you keep on doing that, that really opens this portal for tears, for opening, awakening. And what you'll notice as you continue to journey within yourself to learn how to hold space and create safety for yourself in this way, is that you'll notice that all the thoughts, the feelings that come up are different aspects of ourself, and it's not actually the true you.
Right.
And this is what I want to, like, really, really bring forward into the world, is that realizing that by doing these steps to actually love yourself, that's what's going to keep on expanding you, these moments in time.
Right.
So I do invite you to, like, draw, take a piece of paper, just split it into four, and, like, one side is, your intellectual self, one another square, so to speak, is your emotional self, and then one is your body, and one is your intuitive part of you, well, however you connect to that piece.
Right.
And I invite you to, like, start this self-awareness piece of, like, when you're going through something, write down, like, okay, is this what my mind is saying? Is this what my emotional part of me is saying? Is this the soul part of me saying? Maybe it's like, this is the soul is not here right now. That intuitive is not coming through. That's okay, but just recognizing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, what's showing up my body? Am I actually feeling pain in these different places? And it's like, it gives you a clearer way to realize, where am I leading from, and where do I need to invest my time and energy? Like, do I want to be listening to my intuition? Do I need to be, who's running the show here? Am I thinking my emotions, or am I
Right.
feeling my emotions? So it really starts from a place of self discovery, and to really step in a place of honoring wherever we're at in the moment, and then choosing the next step. Just that's the easiest way to chunk it out to begin, because you'd be surprised, like, just how many spirals you are doing by not stopping in the moment, and to just be with yourself, to just create presence and love for yourself, because you know what, that's what she's looking for, she or he is looking for.
So if I break this down, and I loved, this is the way my mind works, and I really enjoy it. If I break this down, I asked for one step, and I'm going to say that you gave us three, and I think they're really powerful steps. I just want to say that they're very powerful steps, because the
Yes.
first two are more, they're conceptually simpler, but vastly more difficult to actually execute. Now, step one, awareness. You can correct me anytime, Tammy. Step one, awareness. Just become aware of the fact that things may not be okay. And step two is permission. Cry. Swear. There's another conversation about swearing, Tammy, because I'll even say there was a day when I was having a conversation with Tammy on another call, and Tammy decided to share with us another way to outlet, which was to yell and swear and be belligerent really loudly. And on this call, I decided I wasn't going to wear my headphones. And my husband came home. And I tell you the look I got. I said, I promise I'm not being harassed. This is just this is an outlet.
It's a workshop.
That's right. It's a workshop. And it was beautiful, but it's truly, there's just that permission. Step two, that permission to just let it be. Cry, sob, punch something safely, something like that, right? Those are the two steps that I find are very profound, conceptually simple, and hard to activate. But once you get past those first two steps, what I'm hearing is that the third step is discovery. This third step is actually realizing which parts of yourself need the most attention. My grandma says the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But if you've got too much nonsense going on, if you haven't become aware and given yourself permission to cool it, then you won't be able to hear that squeaky wheel. So this is your opportunity now to recognize which wheel needs the grease, and then to cyclically focus on what needs nurturing as we go.
Yes. It's thank you for chunking that out into 3 steps, easy to understand steps. Because it's true. It is the awareness involves the slowing down, right? That choice in slowing down, the permission to really accept wherever you're at, and to develop the presence, to really like listen, to hear yourself out, not make yourself wrong, notice the criticizing voices, right? It's like allow yourself to how the feelings to flow, and to repeat back to her what she's actually saying to you, you know really hold that space for self. And the last piece, I mean, yes, and add the anger piece, because if you're tend to be a people pleaser, you definitely are holding a lot of anger, and this is a great place, a great way to express your anger. And definitely the last piece, right? It's like recognizing where are you, what's the cycle you're in? Are you falling back into emotions? Are you consistently not actually checking in with your intuition, or you're aware of it but you're not letting yourself lead? And so I like that, because it creates a little bit of a structure to work with something so intangible.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. I love that so much. Now, Tammy, I know we've covered a lot in our conversation, a lot of personal experiences, a lot of personal evolutions, as well as a lot of kind of conceptual ways that we can help our audience to kind of feel into this community and figure out where they fit in, because this is a place where belonging and being seen, heard, and understood is of utmost priority. That said, is there some final thing that you need to say that you feel is burning within you that you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah. What comes up is a lot of times, like, we are really living life on a very surfacey level. And I really hope that you apply some of this exercise, because when you go through this exercise and you tap into the part of you where you're actually feeling like the body sensations, you're checking in, you're actually paying attention to your body, and there's actually pain or discomfort showing up, these are deeper subconscious things that are in the way of what you say you want in your business, in your relationships, and everything. And so I'll just put out there that if you do this exercise, or maybe you're even present to what's happening in your body, like a chronic ailment, a challenge, chronic condition that is really flares up when you go into a spiral of burnout or mental unwellness, feel free to reach out to me, at my website's at the bottom here, but you could direct message me definitely on the social media channel that you're listening to this and tell me what that is, because I love to shed some light for you what your body is actually letting you know and trying to get your attention about, because those are the places. What we're repressing is often what is directly what's in the way of what you say you want and what you're striving for. So I really want to honor that piece and to help you step into a deeper loving of yourself, because these journeys are one and not separate.
That's beautiful. These journeys are one and not separate. And I think that's a really great way to conceptualize our entire conversation. Despite the fact that we had so many multidimensional approaches to come down to it, they are indeed all integrated. And remember, pathtotheheart.com is where you're going to find Tammy and all of her socials. Connect with her there. She's an amazing resource, and she is here to serve and help and love and make the world a much more beautiful place. With that, I want to thank you, Tammy, for being here during the Marketing Momentum for Mental Health series, and encourage you guys to stick around. We've got more to come. There's always going to be an open door to the conversation to make sure that we create this space of really mental health and wellness as an entrepreneur, as a person living in this world, because you're never not marketing. And so you want to make sure that you're marketing from a place of centered wholeness, acceptance, all that beautiful thing. I always get all the feels with Tammy. So you guys remember, follow, like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll chat with you very soon.